Well, hello. Coming to you very casually here to do something I don't usually do. Pretty much every year, I always look at the Goodreads Choice Awards, and I usually will vote also. But I don't use Goodreads anymore. I actually deactivated my account, so I think in order to vote, I have to make an account again. But I wanted to kind of react and vote, I guess, on camera this year, because normally I pretty much in the past, several years, past 5 years or so, I've pretty much only read fantasy. It's been 75 to 85% fantasy, and then maybe a little bit of historical fiction or sci-fi here and there. But this year I did branch out a lot more, so I kind of felt like it's more worthwhile to record myself reacting and voting. I will say for fantasy and fantasy romance, I did watch Elle's video this morning where she was reacting, and she did predictions and stuff, and so she was checking off what of her predictions were correct. So I did see the fantasy ones, and honestly I feel like I don't have that many thoughts about the fantasy ones because I didn't read as much fantasy this year. Go get on here though. Let's do the fantasy first, because again, I did see it. And there's a lot that I have not read anyway, and a lot that I don't have interest in. All these first ones here, this whole top row. I did have Watermoon on my anticipated releases list originally this year, but I've lost interest in just what I've heard about it. I'm eh. And Catabasis, unsure of the pronunciation, but that one I don't really have too much interest in. Joe Hill, no, don't know that one. The Raven Scholar I do want to check out. That was on my anticipated releases, I think. At any rate, though, I've heard several people talk about it. I am interested, just haven't gotten to it. Drop of Corruption, no, don't care about that series. The Incandescent, I don't remember if I had that on my list, but I am intrigued. Might read it at some point. The River Has Roots, I had not had this on my radar, but I've seen a lot of people talking about this book this year. Maybe I'll pick it up at some point, but I'm not pressed. This whole row, T. Kingfisher, I do want to read more T. Kingfisher, and I might read that someday, but I also am not that pressed. James Islington, that series, no interest. Resistance of Witches, historical fantasy, backdrop of World War II, probably not something I care about. I do like historical fiction, and I do like historical fantasy, but I'm not the biggest World War II, being in the midst of it, reader. I don't tend to really be drawn to those books. Holly Black, no interest. Okay, Red City, I definitely have interest. I had not heard of this until I think after it was released, which it was released this year, obviously, but I hadn't I hadn't seen it on any anticipated releases lists. I'm sure people had it. I just missed it. But I'm very, very intrigued by that one. I kind of want to get it from the library soon, asaptually, and check that one out. So I'm not going to vote for it because I haven't read it, but that one I'm very keen to check out. Brigands and Bread Knives, no, not really interested. I did read The Devils, and I did read Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. So far, for me, the one I would vote for here would be Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil, because I've read it, and I actually liked it. The Devils was very for me. Then The Sirens, I have not heard of this one. Elle also commented that she hadn't heard of this one. Brandon Sanderson, I'm not reading The Stormlight Archive. Maybe someday, but for now, still not something I care to read. I have heard of these last two, Alchemy of Secrets and The Everlasting. I'm intrigued by them, but probably more so Alchemy of Secrets, but I've heard very mixed things about it. But it does sound like something that could be right up my alley. So yeah, I've only read 2 of these. And of those 2, I only liked one. And I did like it quite a bit. So I'm going to vote for Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil. There we go. Now, the Romantasy, I did see also, Elle showed this. I've heard of pretty much all of these. I don't think I've heard of On Wings of Blood, and I had not seen or heard of Direbound or Wild Reverence. All the rest I have definitely seen all over the place. The only ones I really have interest in reading is The Night and the Moth. I want to check out for sure. And then Our Vicious Oaths, I'm actually intrigued by. And that's pretty much it. I'm not going to vote because I have not read any of these. Okay. Also, science fiction, Elle did peek at and I saw. And similar to her, like most of these I've not even heard of. However, I think I've seen The Dream Hotel, but I don't have too much interest in it. Death of the Author, I have obviously heard of and seen all over the place, and I do own, and I do want to read, just haven't yet. The Memory Collectors I've seen around, and I've seen very mixed things about it. I have not actually seen this Adrian Tchaikovsky making the rounds, but I recognize the author, obviously. Then this whole one, I haven't heard of any of these, except I think We've Been Here Before by Susie Krauss. I actually have this on ebook. I don't remember why I got it, but the cover looks cute and I don't know, it just sounds intriguing. So at least a couple that I want to read, but have not read any. And then I did also see debut novel. Elle peeked at this, and I know what I'm voting for because, where is it? Right there, The Names by Florence Knapp. All-time favorite book, at least the first time I read it. That book, moved me to my core. Beautiful fucking book. Oh my God, I loved it. I was full on fucking crying for the last 100 pages of the book. Just couldn't stop. It was, beautiful. And pretty much the rest of these I have not even heard of, but I'm kind of intrigued by several of them. I did read When the Tides Held the Moon as well, actually, by Vanessa Vita Kelly, and I quite enjoyed that also. But I gotta vote for The Names. It's beautiful. All right, now we'll pop into just general fiction. Probably hardly any of these. The names again. I will vote for that again. A new Ian McEwan. I have a stack of Ian McEwan books to get through. I've really loved some. I've DNF'd one that I didn't love, but I definitely want to put that on my list. Let's see. The 3 Lives of Kate Kay. I actually have this on ebook too, so I want to check that out. 3 Days in June I've heard of, I've seen around, have not read. These ones I have not. I've heard of this one, The Emperor of Gladness. Frederick Bachman, I've definitely seen that going around. I've only read the Christmas one by Frederick Bachman. And then I tried Anxious People this year and I DNF'd. Was not a fan. Jojo Moyes, I haven't heard of this book, but I've heard of that author. And fucking Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. I did not like that very much. So I shan't be voting for that. Because, I like the concept. I did not like the execution. I did not like the characters. I felt like the romance was kind of dumb. Yeah, it just was not to my taste. So, obviously, I'm voting for The Names. All right, historical fiction. Let's see what we have in here. Probably not a lot that I've read. Again, I don't read that much. Obviously, I've heard of Atmosphere, Taylor Jenkins Reid. Have not heard of these, but I've heard of all of these. Well, no, I haven't heard of this author. But David Baldacci and Chanel Clean I've heard of. The Hounding I want to read. Ingrid and I both want to read that. Junie, I see Junie again here. Fiona Davis. I've tried some Fiona Davis. I own some to read at some point. What do we have here? I've seen The Amalfi Curse around, but I haven't checked it out. A lot of these covers are fucking so cool. Haven't heard of these. Good Dirt I've heard of, but haven't picked up. Fucking Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. Watch that one win. I did not have a fun time with that. My God. And I can't vote for anything here because the only one I've read I really didn't like. That book kind of made me lose my fucking mind. Stupid ass second chance fucking romance. God. Mystery thriller. Let's see if I've seen anything from here. I mean, I've heard of the Lisa Jewell. Obviously, I've heard of John Grisham. Frida McFadden, I've heard of. King of Ashes, I've heard of that book specifically. Frida McFadden, The Tenant, I've seen that going around for sure. Richard Osman, The Impossible Fortune, I haven't read that one yet, but I have requested it. I've heard of these two, and I've heard of all of these. I just haven't read them. Dude, fucking Frida McFadden is running shit in the mystery thriller genre for Goodreads, apparently. Jesus. I wish I could vote for this, but I haven't read it. But, I mean, if I had read it, it would be the one I would vote for, probably. Unless I end up hating it, but I doubt that. All right, romance. Probably, yeah, no. Seen all these, have not read them. Same here. I've seen all these around, haven't read, and don't care to read any of these either. Let's check the next two. The Favorites by Lane Fargo. Okay, I might have to vote for that one because, again, I've seen, obviously, but I have not read. This one I'm interested in. Kennedy Ryan, can't get enough, but I haven't read it. First Time Caller. I've seen a lot of people love First Time Caller, but I can't say. So, yeah, I'm going to vote for The Favorites, man. It was nonsense, but it was fucking fun. It was a fun time. All right, let's check out horror. Actually, Elle did look at this too. I didn't really pay too much attention to it. I have not heard of Breathe In, Bleed Out. I've heard of Immaculate Conception. I've heard of We Love You, Bunny. I've heard of Chuck Tingle, Lucky Day. Don't really have interest in any of those, I don't think. Immaculate Conception I might have added to my TBR. Can't quite remember right now. The Possession of Alba Diaz, I am intrigued, but have not gotten to that. Stephen King, no. Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang, I've seen around. Don't think I have interest. The Hungerstone, I've seen around, and I do have interest. Grady Hendrix, The Witchcraft for Wayward Girls, I DNF. When the Wolf Comes Home, I'm intrigued. I've heard decent things. These two I'm not really interested in. The Lamb by Lucy Rose. Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna von Veen. Probably, and then Buffalo Hunter Hunter. I'm gonna vote for one of those, but which one? Rachel Harrison, I've heard of, definitely not too intrigued by. The Bewitching, I've heard of, maybe. You Weren't Meant to Be Human, I've not heard of. What Hunger, I have heard of. But okay, Blood on Her Tongue or Buffalo Hunter Hunter. They were both so good. Buffalo Hunter Hunter has, I think for me personally, like it was more impactful. But Blood on Her Tongue, the writing and the pacing was better for me. The writing is just delicious. They're kind of equal to me because like I like the writing and the atmosphere and the pacing better in Blood on Her Tongue. But I do like the themes in Blood on Her Tongue, but I think I liked the thematic stuff better in Buffalo Hunter Hunter. And I do like the writing in Buffalo Hunter Hunter, but the pacing was a little off, you know? I think I'm going to vote for Blood on Her Tongue, though. It was, There's some scenes, there's in Buffalo Hunter Hunter too, but Blood on Her Tongue, there were just some scenes that I was like, gave me like the fucking heebie-jeebies with just like, oh God, like visceral, like body horror type stuff. Young adult fantasy and sci-fi. Elle looked at this, but I didn't pay too much attention here. I've heard of all of these. I read Breath of the Dragon. I quite enjoyed it. I think that's probably what I'll vote for because I think that's probably the only one that I've read. Oh no, Sunrise on the Reaping. Oh. Man. I do want to check out The Floating World. But that's the only other one that I'm really, like, interested in, I would say. I really liked Breath of the Dragon, and I feel like Sunrise on the Reaping is just going to win because it's the Hunger Games, you know? I loved it. I feel like Breath of the Dragon, though, was more surprising. I was not expecting to enjoy it as much as I did, but, like, did I enjoy Sunrise on the Reaping more? Yeah. You know? So I kind of feel like, but it's like, I almost as much as I love it, it's like, it's probably gonna fucking win just because, you know? Maybe not, though. Maybe something else completely surprising will win. I just think that Breath of the Dragon was like a really well done young adult fantasy, you know? And like Sunrise on the Reaping, I just love the Hunger Games world. You know, that's kind of like what a lot of the enjoyment is. I'm gonna go with Breath of the Dragon. I'm just gonna switch it up. Young adult fiction, I'm sure I will not recognize most of these. I mean, I've recognized the authors for sure. But so far, I don't think I have seen any of these books in my neck of the woods. Ooh, Under the Same Stars, I have, but I DNF'd it. And not because I didn't like think it was well written or anything. It just, I couldn't at the time, the content of it all. It was like earlier this year and I was just like, nope, I can't. So yeah, I'm not gonna vote for anything here. But yeah, literally the rest of them, I'm so out of like contemporary YA world on YouTube that, like I said, I recognize some of the authors for sure, but I just from when I first started booktube and I paid more attention to just young adult in general, but in recent years I have not. Nonfiction, I have read no nonfiction this year. And I, so far, only recognize Everything is Tuberculosis. Yeah, that's the only one. Memoir, I'm not going to recognize. Oh, God. I do recognize Elizabeth Gilbert, All the Way to the River. And there's scandals surrounding that one. I just want Elizabeth Gilbert to write fiction. You know, I don't know the full details. I think it's just how she had framed dealing with this loss, and I don't know, just the framing of it seems sketch. Haven't delved that much into the whole thing though, but yeah, the rest of these don't recognize. I'm not in that world. And history and biography, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't fucking know any of these. Nope. So there we go. That's it. So I only voted on what? 3? 1, 2, 3. Oh no, 5. 6. Wait, no. Did I vote on young adult? Oh yeah. Breath of the Dragon. Jesus Christ. Like I said, I don't normally do these because I'm not even on Goodreads. And like, it's just a popularity contest. We all know, blah, blah, all the things. And I don't know, like reacting. Like I kind of was reacting in this, but I don't like to make a whole separate video reacting because as you see, I do read a lot compared to like the average person, of course, but the average booktuber, I don't necessarily read as much as a lot of people. And usually there was several categories where I'm like, I don't recognize like any of these fucking books. In the past, it was like every category other than like fantasy. I would have nary an idea and would not have read any of the books. So this year I just felt like recording the voting since I did read a little bit more widely this year. Still a lot of fantasy, but honestly, not the majority. What even is? Let me see my yearly charts. Yeah, man. It's only, okay, last year I think it was, in the recent years, like I said, it's been like 70 to 85% fantasy, like somewhere in there. And this year, 51.6% fantasy that I've picked up. And then the next is historical, 11.1, and then contemporary, which would be like general fiction stuff, 10.3, literary fiction, 8.7, and horror, 7.1. Those are the top 5 genres this year. So still fantasy, the majority, but like barely, 51%, almost 52%. But yeah, barely the majority. Wow. Crazy. So yeah, that's why I wanted to do it. But I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.